Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to another YouTube video on the channel. And today guys, here we are for another massive 3-game match reviews. Yes, here we are for another 3-game match reviews, and in this 3-game match reviews we are going to be reviewing the middle 3 games of round 20 of the 2022 AFL season. Again, as I always say, 3 massive games here. Going to be reviewing them all, going to be having a look at the ladder, going to be going all over that cool stuff. But the games we're going to be reviewing are the Saturday twilight and Saturday night games. St Kilda vs Hawthorn, Geelong vs Western Bulldogs, and Adelaide vs Carlton. Some massive games here. We learnt more pretty much in this one for teams contending for the top 8. Meanwhile, in yesterday's one, we learnt more about teams contending for the top 4. So, this round has been a pretty big round. First game though, Saints-Hawks. So it was a very interesting game, Marvel Stadium on the Saturday twilight. St Kilda 10-15-75. Get over the Hawks 9-9-63. They didn't do it easily, and this team definitely doesn't look like a team that will play finals after how easily the Hawks managed to come back and almost seal the game. And against better defensive sides, St Kilda will have a lot of problems and will be exposed a lot more heavily, because this was a game they probably should have absolutely put away. But no, the Hawks, they were allowed to be kept in it, and it was a very disappointing last quarter for the Saints, only kicking the 1 goal, allowing the Hawks to kick 5 of their own, and almost set up one of the victories of the season. But the Saints worked impressively hard during the second and third quarter to get the lead out to somewhere where it was no more capable. They led by over 40 points at one stage. And yeah, you knew the Hawks were never going to come back, but they did. They came back. I didn't think they were going to come back, and I don't think a lot of people thought they were going to come back, but steadily they started to come back and only lost it by 12 points in the end, which is probably not a bad result for them, considering they could have lost this game by a lot more. For the Saints, they would have been really looking to get some sort of percentage out of this game, because their percentage is sitting very poor, and if they do miss the 8 on points, on percentage, they'll know why. Because their percentage has been a big letdown for them. They have missed out on chances to get percentage in some games this year. But again, it was a pretty good performance in the second and third quarter. But the first and the fourth quarters weren't the greatest for them. It was actually quite a low-scoring game. I almost got the margin on the money as well. I said Saints by 11. Saints by 12, though, was what happened. Still 31 disposals, 2 goals for Max King, 11 tackles for Brad Crouch, 162 fantasy for Rowan Marshall, the big ruckman. He had the 30 disposals, 163 fantasy, 7 tackles, 35 hitouts, 9 marks. He was doing everything, Rowan Marshall. 128 for Crouch, 115 for Mitchell, 110 for Ross, 107 for Steele and Ward, 100 for Newcomb. 2 goals, 5 for King, showing that he had a pretty poor day in front of the big sticks. He would have been hoping to convert a few more of them goals. Otherwise, then the Saints, again, he could have walked out with a bag of 4 or 5, and the Saints could have been at about 100 and won the game by 35-ish points, which would have been a pretty comfortable and percentage-boosting win. And then Scrimshaw and Newcomb, both with 2 goals for the Hawks. 31 disposals for Steele and Mitchell. 30 for Marshall. Not very often you see somebody like him do that. 30 for Crouch as well. 27 for Hanbury in his return. 26 for Ross and Ward. 25 for Patton. 24 for Sinclair and Morrison. Now to the marks we go. 9 for Membry, Marshall and Mitchell. 8 for Morrison and Moore. Tackles, 11 for Crouch. 9 for Long. 7 for Ross, Wood, Marshall, McGuinness and Moore. Hitouts now 35 for Marshall, 26 for McAvoy. 2 for Leanett. 1 for Membry, King, Lewis, Kazitsky and Nash. Team stats now, where the Hawks actually, believe it or not, went inside 50 more times than the Saints. Although the Saints did have more footy than the Hawks. Let's see what else we've got. Hitouts and clearances was in St Kilda's favour, especially around the stoppage. Clearances where they won big, did the Saints, 28-16. What else is here? Let's see. Nothing else looking amazing. The Hawks did take more marks. However, the Saints led for most of the game and were definitely deserving winners in the end. They were the better of the side for most of the game. The Hawks did have patches, though, especially that last quarter where they were good. But the Saints, they were good with the tackles, had 8-1 bounces. But the Saints were almost lucky in a way to survive this. But yes, things about their finals, they are currently in the top 8, but whether that will last long or not is a story to be told with their run home, which consists of Geelong. They'll be playing the Swans, and they'll be playing, who else will they be playing? They'll be playing another top team, and they'll be playing Brisbane. Geelong, Brisbane and Sydney, very tough run home, but 2 of those games are at Marvel, but this game doesn't really set them up for finals, so I think the Saints, they're still going to miss regardless of this result. Or should I say, even though they won this game. Now down to GMHBA Stadium, Orchid Park, where the Cats, 14-10-94, ended up smashing the Western Bulldogs 9-12-66. They won by 28 points, and in a game where it was almost, again, a little bit of a tale of two halves. The Doggies controlled the first, but then in the third quarter, the Cats went absolutely rampant to seal the deal. So the Doggies, they were good in the first quarter. They kicked the first 4 goals of the game, and only allowing the Cats to get 1 goal. So that was a really good sign for the Western Bulldogs. They did lose the second quarter, however, due to the Cats. They started to come back, kicking 3 goals to 2. And then in the third quarter, that is where the party started in Joel Selwood's 350th game for the Cats. That's where they got going. That's where they absolutely started to fly out the blocks. They kicked 8 goals to 0 in that quarter. And then you knew at 3-quarter time it's game over. You can't beat the Cats when they're up by 35, probably, about that sort of margin. You can't beat them. They're just too strong. And then in the last quarter, they finished it off strongly. Although the Doggies do win the last quarter, however, but it's not enough. And the margin only just comes a little bit under 30 points in the end. But a pretty poor second half for the Western Bulldogs. After keeping the Cats to 4 goals at half-time, they looked like they were maybe even in the box seat, but Kilda Park is so hard to play. The Cats play it very well, and no wonder why they ended up losing the Western Bulldogs. They just didn't have a strong enough second half. They kicked 3 goals in the whole second half, and the Cats kicked 10, and that's where the game was lost for the Western Bulldogs. Richards 28 disposals, 3 goals for Waitman, such an important piece of their club. 119 fantasy for Dunkley. He played a pretty good game. 9 tackles for Riley West. AFL fantasy, 198 for Dunkley. 108 for Richards, 104 for Smith, 98 for Liberatore, 97 for Close, 96 for Stewart, 3 goals for Waitman, 2 for Hawkins, Guthrie, Cameron, Dunkley, Ugle-Hagan. Ugle-Hagan's been looking really good. He's been looking a threat inside the forward 50 for the Western Bulldogs. So if there's, again, one thing that they've done really well, it's, Ugle-Hagan. He's been playing brilliantly, and then, of course, Waitman as well. 2 goals for Sengel and Rowan. Now the disposals, 28 for Richards and Liberatore, 26 for Danger and Isaac Smith. Now the man that we've all been waiting for, where is he? Selwood. He only collected the 13 disposals in his 350th game, 47 fantasy, 1 mark, 3 tackles. So probably not the game that Selwood ideally would have wanted to have played in his 350, but they still did get the job done for him, and such a legend of the club. 11 marks for Richards, 10 for Stewart, 9 for De Koning and Duncan, 8 for Smith and Cameron. Now their tackles, 9 for West, 8 for Atkins, 7 for Close, 6 for Blitzarves and Dunkley. Hit-outs, 25 for English, 18 for Segler, 13 for Blitzarves, 3 for Hawkins, 1 for Bruce and Norton. Bruce has had a couple of quiet games as well for the Doggies since coming back from the ACL. But yeah, they went inside 50 10 more times, did the Cats and the Western Bulldogs. And they won centre clearances. However, the Doggies were more damaging around the stoppage clearances. They won the stoppage clearance count. The Cats took way more marks inside 50. But this is a seriously good and damaging group. The Cats, and that's why this is why they're the minor premiership favourites and the premiership favourites perhaps as well. Such a good list, and even though they had 4 goals to half time, they managed to put on a surge in the third quarter and send the Doggies out. And they were all at sea in the third quarter where the Western Bulldogs. That's where the magic was made for the Cats, and another pretty good win is setting up a really good season for the Cats. Now to the Adelaide Oval, where disaster strikes for Carlton. Adelaide 12-12-84, Carlton 8-7-55. It was a horror show for Carlton, and the Adelaide Crows absolutely loving it. It's their home ground, and wow, they pulled off a ripping performance, did they? Fogarty was fantastic. There was lots of standouts, and Keys, I'll tell you, he played on star, tagged him down, locked him down, and Keys, one of the best games I've ever seen him play in Adelaide Crows colours. And he can go and get 40 disposals, but he always snuck forward and always had all these chances. And the Crows ended up with many players out the back to go and get easy goals. And Carlton, they were just horrible the whole game. The Crows managed to lock down Colonel and Mackay. They brought the physical pressure. If you want to beat Carlton, bring the physical pressure. That's how you're going to do it. There was lots of bumps, hip and shoulders, and that is how the Crows won the game. It's a young and exciting group that they're building. And now let's have a little look at the worm, or the timeline. So the Blues were good in the first quarter. However, the Crows, they dominated the first half of the first quarter. The Blues dominated the second half of the first quarter. And then from there, at about this 1/3 of the way into the second quarter, the Crows just kick a goal, which puts them in front. And the Blues never lead from that stage there. And then the Crows, they keep going. They almost extend the margin out to 20 points at three-quarter time. At half time. No, at the halfway point of the second quarter, and then the Blues just kick a couple of goals back to bring it back into single digits, 36-33 at the halftime break. Then the third quarter, the Crows kick 3 goals to the Blues only 1, and it's an interesting game. It's 57-42 at three-quarter time, and the Blues kick the first, the Crows respond, the Blues kick another, and then the Crows respond. Those are the Blues' only 2 goals. And then from there, the Crows just go absolutely bananas. They go bang to seal the deal. And it was a ripping win for the Adelaide Crows. It's showing that they've really got some really good young players coming through. Cripps, 41 disposals. Ben Keys, 3 goals. And all 3 of them, he was out the back. He was out and he was free. And the Crows, their pressure was fantastic. 141 fantasy for Smith. 12 tackles for Laird. You know Laird's going to do it. You know he is. AFL fantasy now. 141 for Smith, 139 for Cripps, 130 for Laird, 128 for Walsh, 119 for Doherty, 110 for Chera, 108 for Sard, 104 for Dawson. But yeah, the Crows, and well, I'd say we, because they're my team. We managed to match them around the stoppages, play physically, play hard, and we managed to get under Carlton's skin and get the job done. And Kerno and Mackay they had very quiet nights. 3 goals for Keys and Walker. 2 for Fogarty, took a ripper, kicked a ripper goal as well. 2 goals for Cottrell as well. Miller, he was exciting with the 1 goal 3. In fact, the umpiring, not going to lie, was a bit of a, wasn't the greatest sometimes. Because Miller, not sure if you saw it earlier on in the first quarter, but Miller was kicking off the grounds and it didn't even hit the player, but the umpire called it as a touch behind because that was the umpire's call. So I felt like there was sufficient evidence to turn it over. But anyway, 41 disposals for Cripps, 40 for Walsh. And I've said this many times, you can have big numbers, but what you do with the footy is most important. Compared to somebody that may only have 25 touches like Dawson. But if you're going to use the ball well, which is exactly what Dawson does, compared to 41 and 40 where you may not use the ball very well. 37 for Smith, another brilliant game for him. 32 for Laird, Doherty, 26 for Sard. He still got the ball, but wasn't as impactful as he normally can be. 25 for Dawson, as I just said. 11 marks for McGovern, 10 for Doherty, 8 for Smith, 7 for Sard, Chera. Tackles, 12 for Laird, 9 for Chera and Kennedy, 7 for Schonberg and Berry. Now to the hit-outs, 30 for O'Brien and Pitternet, 13 for De Koning, 3 for Himmelberg, Walker and Cripps. And again, one more thing that I'm going to touch base on with the ruckman is that Pitternet and De Koning, a lot of ruckmen have done what Gawn does, go back, go forward to take marks, have shots, but these ruckmen don't necessarily really play as forwards. Pitternet's not a forward. De Koning hasn't really looked like a forward either. And both of them, when they weren't rucking, they were pretty at sea, really. They weren't playing that well. They weren't getting into the right positions. They weren't really helping. And the Crows went inside 50 18 more times than Carlton. It was a fantastic win for this young club. Showing that they're in the right direction. Carlton, very poor at the Adelaide Oval. They haven't been able to win a lot of games there. I don't think they've been able to win any at the ground. But yeah, the Crows won out of centre clearances. They had more contested footy. Let's see what else there is. The Blues took way more marks. But yeah, whether they were heading forward or back is a whole different story. But yeah. The Crows led for most of the game. I think definitely in this game, they were the deserving winners of this one. They were deserving. And their pressure, everything they did, they laid lots of tackles. They put on pressure. Just the pressure, the physical pressure that they were up to. And they sustained it for 4 quarters. And that is why they won the game. Carlton, they're not locked in finals just yet. Alright, so 3 ripping games here. St Kilda 75 over the Hawks 63. The Cats 94 over the Dogs 66. And the Crows 84 over the Blues 55. So all the home teams won in these 3 games. Now, Sunday footy action. Well, what is going on? Suns play the Eagles' first game on Sunday, Metricon Stadium. Tigers and Lions. This is the one, though, to watch for today. It's going to be a big one. The Lions looking to break a hoodoo at the MCG. Richmond so strong at that ground. What's going to happen? And then Essendon and North Melbourne close off the round at Marvel Stadium. So 21. Quick look ahead to that. This is going to be game of the round. Melbourne versus Collingwood. Hawks versus Suns is also going to be a ripper as well. Giants Bombers could be another ripping game. And then Doggies Dockers. It just doesn't stop, doesn't it? Port Adelaide Richmond just keeps on going. Lions Carlton, Eagles Crows. It just keeps on going next round. Except I feel like that one's probably not going to be great anymore. But it's ripping games next round. Ripping games central. So if you want a good round of footy, this could be very well it. Starts on a big Friday night with the Demons and the Pies. Now to the ladder though. How are things going? Well, the Cats, a game clear on top of the table on 60 points. The Swans now are into the top 4 of the Lions win. However, they will go into the top 4 into 3rd spot, push Collingwood to 4th. But if they lose, which is a likely outcome perhaps, they will stay in 5th. The Dockers are in 6th. Carlton are in 7th. Only a game behind the Saints, which means if the Saints can win next week versus the Cats, that's going to make things really interesting. Now, the Doggies, they've got to try and win as many of their games, and Richmond has to start today for them. Port Adelaide's season's over, and the Suns, you'd be thinking how the rest of the competition is shaping up. Their season's over, but they're going to be looking for a win against West Coast to go up into 11th position anyway. The Crows now, they have climbed up above the Giants, who have had a very poor season. Again, we saw yesterday their Sydney Derby was poor. Far from good. But anyway, that is what is left to come. Those are the 3 games that we just reviewed. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. See you guys in another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Bye everyone. Flaming Footy out.